Alright everyone, we're going to be talking today about plugins and specifically plugins related to playing music, because I know a bunch of people have shown some interest, and this is some information I was able to rustle up myself over the last couple years. So if you haven't done a plugin before, you can go to lotrointerface.com, and I'm going to put this link in this the description here of the video down below. But what you're going to want to grab is you're going to want to grab this plugin called Songbook by Chiran, I think is how they would pronounce that, Chiran. This was last updated about 2 years ago. Very useful plugin. And what you're going to do is you're just going to download that, and what it is it's a zip file. Looks like this, and the place you're going to want to download this to is on your PC, your documents, then the Lord of the Rings Online plugins folder. Again, if you haven't done plugins before, this is where they all go. So I've got a couple other things saved myself. So save the zip file here. Going back to the Lotro interface, you just download it. Again, choose under Documents, Lord of the Rings Online, Plugins. You could really download it anywhere, but this is the best place to download it to, because when you unzip it, it's going to be right where you want it to be. So that's the first thing you're going to want to do, is open this. So go to your plugins file. We're going to unzip this. Now, I've already done this, and then I unloaded it. So we're going to highlight both of these files. We're going to want to go ahead and extract these. If you haven't worked with zip files before, that's kind of beyond the scope of what I'm doing here, but we're going to unzip this right here into the plugins folder. So go ahead and hit OK. Lotro plugins file, it's exactly the same, but I'm going to go ahead and replace it anyway. You may or may not have a Lotro plugin XML file. You can go ahead and replace it if you do. If you have one, back yours up first. So now that we've unzipped this, we now have this folder called Chiran, and that's where Songbook is located. Okay, and there's a README text. You can go ahead and read that, but basically it's going to tell you exactly how to access this in the client, and I'm going to show you that anyway. So what it's going to tell you is you have to create a file called excuse me, a folder called music. We want to come back up here all the way to Lord of the Rings Online. So we're one folder above the plugins folder. We're going to create a new folder called music with a capital M. Save that. Now you can see I've got a backup of my older music file. You probably don't have a music file if some of you have dabbled around with these ABC files to play music. You may have one. If that's the case, back it up first. It's also a folder you'll be able to point at in the next step I'm going to show you. So now that you've got this folder created, go back to your plugins folder, and with the Songbook, there's one ABC file. So just to get a demonstration of what this looks like, we can copy this over to that music folder. Okay, ABC file, and I'll talk about more about these ABC files in a moment, but just know that the ABC file is just a text file that contains the information for each song. Alright, so go back to our plugins, and everything's where it should be. So what you have to do is you have to run this Songbook HTA file, or you can also use Songbook Filler. Either one of these files are an executable which you can use, and it's asking you Lotro username. If you have more than one account like I do, you're going to see all of your accounts there. I'm on my Falcone account here. I'm going to click build library, and it says, oh, I found one song in one directory. So in the future, if we want to add additional ABC files, and I'll show you how we can do that in a moment, they're going to be underneath that same music directory, and then we can use this little program, this little executable, builds a library of songs. You need to do this first in order for the plugin to be useful. And now we've done everything that we need to do to set up the plugin. So we're going to go to, there's a couple ways you can access your plugin manager. On your login screen where you see your characters, you can go to manage plugins. And if you've already installed plugins, you'll see them here. I've got an inventory and a buff bar plugin. And since we've just installed the files, we're going to hit this refresh button. And now we can see Songbook is now one of our options. And we're going to go ahead and automatically load it for all characters. Or you can choose whatever you want. You can have it only for specific characters, whatever you want to do. I have it on for all characters. There's no actual options to change here, so we're going to go ahead and log into the game. While we're logging in, switching over to my other account, because I'm going to show how you can group up and play music together. The other place you can access your plugins is through your system plugin manager. You may have this on a hotbar or a hotkey somewhere, but there's no standard hotkey. So go to your plugin manager. It's the same interface you see that I showed you from before. We're going to do the same thing here. Those files are going to be there now for this account as well. Songbook, boom, all characters. We're going to load that. All right. So we are logged in on Falcone. You can of course control the location of the icon, but I can't remember where it is. I've got a lot of stuff going on there. Anyway, this is the icon here to bring up your music window. Now, what you will see if you have music in more than one directory, we only have the one song, so there's only one song to see here. But what you've got here is you've got the ability to go into music mode by clicking on M. Now you do have to have an instrument equipped. As a minstrel, I always have an instrument equipped, but if you are not a minstrel, you're going to need to equip an instrument. Plus you can also hotbar them down here and switch between your different instruments, such as a lute or a theorbaro. Theorbaro is what I normally have equipped. I've also got a drum and a flute and some bagpipes, flute, and a harp. So of course these all bring different sounds. Settings. are pretty self-explanatory. Whether or not the song part list is visible, that's down here. If a song has multiple parts designed for different instruments, they'll appear down in this area below. Search enabled, you can toggle that on or off. Show descriptions in the song list, I highly recommend you do. Show descriptions first. I would recommend that. The name of the file is back here in this case. Just makes it a little clearer because the descriptions are usually more explanatory than the actual file name. Window visible on load, that's up to you. I have mine off. Songbook button visible, that's true. That's this guy right here. Instrument slots are visible. That's pretty much it. Now you can add custom commands. Apparently, I haven't really messed with that too much. So the commands are actually pretty simple. Again, once you have an instrument equipped, you simply hit M to go into music mode. You choose the song you want to play. If you have multiple songs, they'll be right here to choose from. Choosing the song you wish to play. If you're in a group, you would sync up first, but we're not in a group, so you just simply hit the play button and you will start playing. Now, in this case, it's a clarinet, and we have a harp equipped, but it's going to go ahead and play the notes anyway when it gets there. This is actually not a great example of a song to play. In fact, oh, there we go. So there you have some music playing. All right. I can't quite seem to figure out where to send the sound to. Anyway, so that's how you play a song. Very simple. You can stop by just moving. You can also stop by just hitting the play button a second time if you're already playing. Nope, that's wrong. You can hit the M to jump out of music mode. Anyway, that's the basics of playing some music. There are a lot of resources for getting songs, ABC files from the internet, and one place you can grab them from that is an immense resource is this place called Bards of a Feather. This is a kinship based on Gladden originally, I believe. And there is a ton of information here about ABC files in general, which ABC files, again, are just simply text files. And if you want to learn more about them, I highly recommend going through this ABC notation tutorial. Also, I found this Maestro MIDI to ABC converter was really useful for my own tinkering around with creating my own music in an ABC file if you're interested in doing that. In any case, tons of information and resources here, but the main thing we're interested here is Raymond's ABC collection. As you can see, this was recently updated as recently as February, so this is a very recent collection, huge collection of files. Download that as a zip file. Again, I would recommend putting it in your Lotro plugins folder right here. Save that there. We can unzip it into our music file, put it in a separate folder, and there are thousands of songs in this collection. The collection I had is a much smaller collection. I just realized mine is about 2 years out of date and only has 20 200 songs. So I suspect, based on the size of the file, it's at least double that. So we can find out in a moment. In the meanwhile, we're going to go back here and in my folder I have backed up in my backup music a folder called Old Stuff. I'm going to copy that. This is a collection of about 25 songs which I collected before I ran into this Raymond's file with this huge selection of files. So I'm going to drop this into my music folder here and just paste that. Alright, so now we're going to go back and I'm going to rerun the songbook filler, and that will now rebuild the library with, boom, the other songs. And they're in 2 directories, 25 songs. So now we can go back to the game and we can look at our songbook. Okay, so that's not going to be, what we got to do is we got to go back to our plugins manager first, and what we're going to do is we're going to unload the plugins, and we're going to refresh this, and we're going to go back to songbooks and we're going to load it back in again. Okay, and now we will reopen it. And now we can see that we have multiple directories. We have that single song in our top music directory, but we also have this other directory called Old Stuff. And this is where I have several other songs, including a song I wrote right there. It's best maybe on flute. And again, go to music mode, hit play, and then it's going to play that song. So that's how you add additional ABC files, and you can help keep them organized by putting them in separate directories. So again, that Raymond's folder, if we go back, unzip that. If, by the way, if you don't have a program you usually use to zip or unzip, I found this 7-zip open source zipper, compressor and uncompressor program, which is extremely useful. If you take a look inside this Raymond zip file, you're going to see there's a couple PDFs with the song list parts. A lot of these songs include multiple parts, which are designed specifically for bands playing together. And I'm going to put that in a little bit separate video, I believe, would be the plan at this point, because I probably rambled on just a little bit too long. But you can see here there is a huge number of songs in this zip file, in this archive. So lots and lots of songs. So you can add those in to your music folder once you've unzipped them. I would recommend that you make a new folder and drop them inside of that instead of just dropping it on top of this, so you can have it at least somewhat separated. And I can make this small folder available as a zip file for people to test if you want to try something smaller without all of a sudden accessing thousands of songs. Alright, so there you go. If you have any questions, I'm going to drop this in the Discord with a link, and you can post your questions there.